Hello. In this particular video, we'll talk about Roland Barthes and a narrative code. We'll also discuss uh, three levels of narration proposed by Gerard Genet and also the various modes of historical narration. So, without further ado, let's take a look at Roland Barthes and the narrative code. Now, Roland Barthes was a very famous French literary critic. He was very influential during the 20th century. His most famous work, The Structural Analysis of Narrative, which was published in the year 1977. And in this particular work, he introduced a detailed model of the narrator. Now, what did he have to say in this particular work? What were his observations? Now, he said that literary narratives consist of signs or codes. Now, Barth studied a short story by the famous French writer called Balzac. And after analyzing this particular short story, he could identify 561 units of meaning. So, from a single short story, he could identify 561 units of meaning. And these units of meaning were referred to as lexius by Barth. Now, and these lexius or these units of meaning were organized under five main groups called codes. Okay, these units of meanings or lexius were classified under main groups or five main groups or codes. Now, which are these five codes? Let's take a look. First one, proeretic code. Second one, hermeneutic code. Third one, cultural code. Fourth one, scenic code. Fifth one, symbolic code. So these codes could be found in narratives according to Roland Barthes. Now, let's take a look at each of them in detail. First one, pro-heretic code. Now, this code refers to the sequence in which events occur. It refers to the order or the arrangement in which events occur in a narrative. First, this event happened, and therefore and the second event followed. Remember the famous example that we had learned about, uh, given by Foster, E.M. Foster. The king died and the queen died. So the first event is the death of the king. The second event is the death of the queen. So the order in which the events occur in a narrative uh, is what is meant by the pro-heretic code. The second one is the hermeneutic code. This code explains and informs the reader about details of a narrative. Okay, so why a particular event happened, how the event happened, what really happened, the details of the event. For example, we'll stick to the king and the queen story. Uh, First, the king died, and second, the queen died, and how this king died of natural causes. The queen died because of grief. No, that these are the reasons. So you're giving details. So the hermeneutic code is associated with the details of how an event happened, why an event happened, who were the people involved in that particular event. All these details are provided to the reader by the hermeneutic code. Third one is the cultural code. Now, cultural code. Now, when you're when you come across certain narratives, there are certain cultural codes. For example, if you're reading an American short story, certain aspects of that short story you might be able to identify with, but certain other elements you might not be able to identify. Because we are Indians, so the American culture is an alien culture as far as we are concerned. But we know bits and pieces of that particular culture because we are exposed to Hollywood movies, we are exposed to uh, uh, television series, web series, uh, uh, and American novels, right? So, uh, but not all aspects of the American culture could be identified by us, right? Similar, vice versa. When an American is reading an Indian story, uh, the human aspect of that story might be identified by the American, but he might not be able to understand the little nuances that are there in our culture. For example, a foreigner, or for that matter, a person living in another part of India might not be able to uh, identify himself with our festivals, the Malayali festivals, or the great celebrations that we have here. For example, Puram, Trishur Puram, or all these things. For Malayalis, it's a great event, right? It's like an emotion, right? Puram. But there's not even an equivalent term in English to refer to the word Puram, right? Puram, you might use the word festival, but the word festival or carnival doesn't really capture the essence of what Puram really is for a Malayali. So, in stories and narratives, you might come across certain cultural codes that are specific to a region, to certain people, to certain communities, right? So, that is what's meant by cultural code. Now, the fourth one is the scenic code. Now, what do you mean by a scenic code? Now, these are very stereotypical, cliched codes that you might come across in narratives, in stories, in movies, in advertisements. For example, you might have noticed that um, a lab coat or a doctor's coat is a symbol of authenticity or authority, or it provides certain validity to the statements made. That's why when you're seeing the ads for soaps or sanitizers or cleaning liquids, you'll always find that the model is always dressed as a doctor or as a scientist, who is wearing a lab coat or a white coat. Because what does it suggest? The white coat, the lab coat, the doctor's coat is a symbol of authority or authenticity. So when a doctor says about, like, says like 99.9% कीटाणुओं को मारता है, you tend to believe that particular statement. Then that's a semic code, the lab coat or the doctor's coat, as a symbol of authenticity. Then the color black. The color black, is often taken as the symbol of mourning. When you mourn something, you wear black. These are all semic codes, very stereotypical, cliche. Another example would be Indian politicians wearing Gandhi topi, the Gandhi cap, right? In movies, in serials, in popular Indian literature, you'll always find the Indian politician wearing khadi clothes and Gandhi topi, uh, at least in the north of India. Here in South India, you never find politicians wearing Gandhi topi. Instead, they're all dressed in white. And that's another thing. The scenic code that you'll find throughout India. Almost all the politicians in India, no matter whether they are from the north or the south, they always wear white. Right? So that is a kind of scenic code that you will find in narratives. Now, the fifth one, the final one, the symbolic code. Now, this is similar to the scenic code, but it extends beyond a particular stereotype and refers to something larger. For example, when a character is in mourning, or when a character is going through immense emotional distress, the nature also weeps with the character. You know, clouds loom large, dark clouds loom large, and eventually there is a storm, or uh, heavy rain. There's thunder and lightning, signifying the emotional turmoil the character is going through. Such things are found throughout literature, throughout popular art. Uh, Now, that is an example of symbolic code. Now, these are the five codes that you'd find in narratives according to Roland Barthes: Proetic code, hermeneutic code, cultural code, scenic code, and the symbolic code. The next topic: Gerard Genet and three levels of narration. Now, according to the French critic Gerard Genet, uh, all narratives follow three levels of narration. And what are these three levels? The first level is the histoire, second one is the récit, third one is the narrating. Okay. So first one, the first two terms are French. The first level of narration is histoire, which histoire is the French term for story. Let's look at the definition. It's defined as story, a set of narrated events or actions that had happened in the past, which have to be narrated. Okay, histoire refers to the story. That is the first level, the story. So, what is a story? It's a set of events that had happened in the past that needs to be told, that needs to be narrated. The second level of narration is récit. Récit in French means narrative. Now, narrative can be told, that is, the story can be told either in the oral form or the written form. It can be oral narrative or written narrative. It depends upon the narrator, right? It represents speech or writing by the author. So, how a story is told, whether it is spoken by the author or whether it is written by the author, depends on which narrative form the uh, author takes, depends on him. So that is resi. Resi can also be referred to as the text or the narrative discourse. So resi is the second level of narration according to Gerard Genet. Third level is narrating, and narrating is the larger process of recounting that produces the resi. So this process of recounting or telling that creates the resi is called the narrating. Okay, so these are the three levels of narration according to the French critic Gerard Genet. First one, histoire. Second one, récit. Third one, narrating. Now, moving on to the last topic from our syllabus. History requires effective narrative methods and theories. Now, history is a very important aspect of forms a very important part of narration, right? Because history tells you something, it narrates something to you about it, talks events, about the people who lived in the past, the events that had happened in the past, the noble deeds that were done by people in the past, the mistakes that they had committed. So history is very important as far as any culture or any community is concerned. Uh, when you take the larger picture also, history is very important for the world in general. So, history requires effective narrative methods and theories for it to act as an effective mode of communication. So, history is an important part of every culture, and therefore, effective narrative methods should be employed so that the history is communicated properly. Okay. For the history to be delivered properly to the intended audience, you have to adopt effective narrative methods. Now, according to Hayden White is a very popular uh, American historian. Uh, According to him, there are three modes of communicating events in the past. Okay. There are three modes of communicating history. First one, annals mode. Second one, chronicle mode. Third one, historical mode or historical narrative. Um, Now, we'll take the example of the history of India, and we'll take a look at how the history of India can be narrated through these. We'll talk about the Indian uh, independence movement in the history of India, and we'll see how that independence movement and the related events can be narrated through these three different modes. Now, the annals mode portrays only the skeleton form of history in a chronological order. There is no central theme or coherence. There is nothing that binds the events together, and there are no detailed descriptions. For example, if you're talking about the post-independence aspect of Indian history, uh, if you are narrating post-independence Indian history in the annals mode, uh, how will it be done? First, you'll give the year 1947, India gains independence. 1948, Mahatma Gandhi assassinated. 1949, framing of the constitution. 1950, India becomes a republic. 1952, first elections are held in India. 1957, Pandit Nehru becomes the prime minister for the second time. So you'll notice that in the annals mode, the year will be given and the corresponding event will be given. 1947, India gains independence. 1948, Gandhiji assassinated. So it portrays only the skeleton form of history in a chronological order. The chronological order is followed, but there is no central theme or coherence. So first you're saying that India got independence. The second you're saying that Gandhiji was assassinated. So there is no central theme there, and no detailed descriptions either. You said that Gandhiji was assassinated in 1948. That's it. Who assassinated him? What were the consequences? What might have led to the horrific event? No descriptions are given. So that is the annals mode. The event and the year. I'm sorry, the year and the corresponding event are given in the chronological order. Now, coming to the second mode, which is the chronicle mode. Now, what does it do? It provides us with detailed history while having a central theme or a subject, follows a chronological order of events, and it also connects each with the next by giving us a genuine and significant information. Now, in this particular mode, you are given the events in a chronological order, all right, but The details are also given. And unlike the previous mode, there is a central theme or a subject. And each event, it follows chronology, all right, but it also is the first event is connected to the second event, the second event is connected to the third event, and so on and so forth. And it gives us genuine and significant information. For example, uh, the same events that we discussed in the annals mode can be uh, converted in the chronicle mode. Something like this would be said. 1947, the year would be given 1947. India acquired its long cherished independence on 15th August 1947. Details are given, right? It's long cherished independence. That is, Indians had been fighting for independence for a very long time, and finally we got it on 15th August 1947. 1948, Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated on January 30th, 1948, in New Delhi by an extremist Nathuram Godse. So you are again given details uh, as to who killed Gandhiji, where was he killed, where did the assassination take place, when the assassination took place. So you're given again details. So, such details are given, significant information is provided to the reader in the chronicle mode. Now, the third one, historical narrative or the historical mode. Even more detailed description of the past, explaining the cause and effect of each incident without leaving any room for further explanation. Now, this is the method adopted by in the historical narrative mode. Okay. In the chronicle mode, detailed descriptions, significant information was provided, right? But in the historical narrative, description is so detailed that no room is left for any more explanation. So the cause and the effect is brought together properly, and the entire narrative is close knit, and it brings about a sense of completion. That is the most important aspect. The same example, if you take, you'd say India acquired its long cherished independence on 15th August 1947 after the British government decided to lay down all claims of the Indian Dominion. In this wake of post independence India and its illusion of Swaraj, Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated on January 30th, 1948, in New Delhi by an extremist Nathuram Godse. Like this, detailed descriptions with cause and effect, and the reason why Gandhiji was assassinated, because of this extreme the sentiments that were there in the minds of certain sections of society, and the effect was the eventual assassination of Gandhiji. All these the descriptions and explanations would be given in the historical narrative. Now, so these are the three modes in which history can be communicated to the modes in which history is communicated uh, to the reader, according to the American historian Hayden White. First one, the annals mode. Second one, the chronicle mode. And the third one, the historical narrative.